Hey guys, welcome to today's video. Today I want to experiment a little bit with a few things. So the first thing I want to do is look at Fresh. I think I've got Fresh over here. So Fresh is basically a framework built on top of Deno instead of Node. So it's built in a way where it tries to send as little as possible sort of JavaScript to the front end. So it's heavily based on rendering on the server and then sending the most static stuff it can to the client, and you can control how much static stuff you want to send. So just to have a look at Fresh, I don't have Deno installed, I believe. Alright, so I don't have Deno installed, so first of all I have to figure out how to install Deno. So let's do deno.land, probably that, I'm not sure. Alright, so install for Linux and Mac, it would be this one. That seems reasonable. So let's install this on my Windows subsystem for Linux session. And let's see. So basically what I want to do is I want to build a Fresh app in Deno, and I also want to build the same sort of app in Nuxt3 and then compare it on a few different factors, like just a basic lighthouse score, which isn't always the best thing to sort of look at, but I mean it is something. And then we can also look at the lighthouse score of Nuxt, and then we can look at the build times, or the sort of time it takes to get your project running. We can look at the time it takes to deploy, and I think for Deno there's a Deno Deploy which I'll use, and for Nuxt3 I'll use the Vercel version. So let's just see if Deno is installed now. I should probably do source I probably should have looked at the command. So let's open a new terminal maybe. Okay, I did something wrong already, but we'll keep going. So I did this. Let's see, maybe I missed a command. So while that's running, let's look at Fresh, which is on fresh.deno.dev. And like I said earlier, Fresh is basically like, yeah, so it's a full stack framework, because you write code both for the client and on the server, and you can even write like API routes as well, I believe. And it's a lot, the syntax is a lot like React because it's built on Preact. So I'm not very good in React syntax, but because I don't write React on a daily basis. But so what we'll do is we'll just look at like the starting point and build a basic app. And the architecture of a Fresh app works like you have sort of pages, full pages, and you can have components, and you can have things called islands. So islands is like a little piece of logic or component that is rendered into your page, but it's interactive on the client side. So if you don't have any islands in your project in Fresh, and you make a request and you inspect the source, we'll do all of this just now, but then you shouldn't have any JavaScript on your page. So by default, it tries to ship with as little JavaScript as possible. Okay, so this was successful. Oh, I have to manually add this. Okay, that's why that didn't work. Let's go to that directory. Well, let's just open that in code. Probably not the best idea. on stream, but okay. So we'll do that and then .bash rc. Hope that works. Now it has to download the VS Code server. Happens every time. All right, so I need to export these two things in there. This could just speed up a little. Here we go. Okay, so I'm just gonna plunk this right at the bottom. And that should do that. Exit this, and then if I do source that .bash rc, now if I do deno-v, or deno, at least it looks like it's installed now. All right, so it looks like I'm in a REPL. Cool. How do I exit this? All right, so we have Deno now. So the next step is let's create a directory to say like Nuxt versus Deno. I mean Nuxt versus Fresh. And then cd into that. And I'll open this up in code. So what I want to do is create two directories basically. And the one directory would be the Fresh app and the one would be the Nuxt app. And I believe this might cause some issues with like current working directory stuff. And so just bear with me if I get a lot of errors because I haven't worked with Fresh or Deno at all. So let's look, let's try and create a project. So, all right, create a new project, do this. And let's go to VS Code and paste that, but I don't want to call it my project, I want to call it Fresh. So let me zoom in so we can see a little better. Okay, so this, do you want to use Tailwind? Yeah, we can do that. Do you use VS Code? Yes, I do. All right, so it looks like it did create the app there. So let's do cd fresh and let's do Deno task start. So it looks like it's getting some dependencies and it's opened a local host. All right, so this is what that looks like. If you look at this code over here, so let's do an inspect. No, not that way. Let's do view source. Oh, we can do an inspect probably. And let's look at the sources or the network and zoom in a little. If we do a refresh and go to all, you'll see that there's a refresh.js. Okay, so we did create some islands. So let's just look at the source code first. In Fresh, there's an islands folder and there's routes and there is a static folder and utilities, which is this Tailwind thing that we'll use to style stuff. And I believe we'll need to install the Deno extension. Just so things look like they aren't breaking. Right, so let's go back to that. Okay, so I'm getting some issues with the imports. I'm not sure if the Deno thing is doing its job. You need to have a version of the Deno CLI installed. Check here for instructions. All right, so, but I believe this is what we've done already, so I'm not sure why that isn't working. So we'll just probably have to ignore all these like squiggly lines. Maybe if we do a refresh of VS Code with Control-Shift-P and reload window, maybe then it'll update. All right, now, so it's really gonna annoy me, but let me set a default formatter maybe. Okay, whatever. So in the islands folder, this counter is basically it's like a React sort of, and betting that Nuxt will win Nuxt3 in my heart. Nuxt3 is amazing, I love it. This video is not about sort of making one better or worse than the other one, but it's just literally trying to, you know, experience both and explore them, because yeah. But I love Nuxt3 and I'll never leave it. And also, I don't like writing components like this. That's a very sort of personal opinion. So if you like it, nothing against you. All right. So what I'm gonna do is, firstly, I'm gonna I think I'm gonna just move this to a different folder for now. The counter island. And in the routes, in index.tsx, I'm gonna not import the counter and I'm gonna remove it from here, just to sort of showcase the difference. Okay, so if I do, let's close this one down. If I do an inspect now of the fetches, so now you'll see you only get the localhost, the logo, and these this refresh is a dev side thing, just so when you update your code it refreshes, but it ships 0 JavaScript. So basically this is the only JavaScript file, and that's used to do like live reload when you are in development mode. So let's see if we can build this and like inspect the build thing. But I'm actually, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it doesn't have a build process. That's also one of the whole points of this, is not to require a build process. So running locally. Deploy to production, probably over there. So as a final step, using Deno Deploy, which we'll look at. So I'm going to open that in a new tab. After creating project, go to the Git tab, in the project settings, select repository, production branch main, yada yada. And yeah, I guess there isn't really a difference between running it with a dev command and running it with a full command. So let's check out the deno.json. So probably this is the watch static routes dev.ts, and then main.ts is probably the one we want to run. All these failed imports are really kind of annoying me. If everyone knows how to turn that off or how to fix that, let's check Deno fresh TypeScript import errors. You guys are gonna watch me. Whoa, what is happening? Oh, my VPN. I should probably. Right, I disappeared for a little bit, probably because I. Oh, there we go. So that looks. That is not what I want to see. Trying to fix this import errors, but it says something about deno.enable. Oh man, this is gonna take me a while probably. I just really need a simple. Okay, so Deno.enable, let's look at that. The settings.json and do a. Damn, these are quite a lot of settings. Okay, so Deno.enable true. And I should probably do this in a. And I think the reason this might be happening is because I haven't opened the project as root in VS Code, so maybe it's not understanding these imports. So let's try code-r. Okay. That seems to be working. So let's do Deno run task dev. And now I forgot the Deno run task start. How do I start this? So I haven't worked with Deno. Oh, Deno task start, so there's no run. Deno task start. Okay. Deno task is unstable and may drastically change in the future. Thanks. And this is localhost 80,000 or 8,000. Okay, so we back to square one. We have this now. The thing we want to do is I want to use Deno Deploy to deploy this, but first I want to create like a basic app using Tailwind and everything. I don't think it's going to be very complicated, but just sort of we might even just reuse this this exact one and then do that in Nuxt as well. So the thing I wanted to illustrate with islands is at this moment, so if I create a components folder and I move this island into that and then go to index and then import that component, so import counter from the I'm not sure if there's a, yeah, okay. So that was kind of cool. So how do I import a local thing? All I want to do is import this counter. That's all I want. And I have no idea how to do that. So it's unable to load that. Oh. Yeah, it is export to default. Let's see if we add the counter, what happens. Not a directory. So I've broken it and I can't remember how to import stuff because I did check this out. Okay, so let's perhaps go see what the normal project says. Man, let's just create a new project and see what they did. This is what happens when you start a complete new runtime on stream. No, that's fine. We don't need that. Yes. All right, so this seems like it should have been fine. Unless my naming is... Great. Trailing slash. Well done. Okay, so now we can actually go see this. So now you'll see that there is these buttons, but they don't really do anything because this is a component and not an island. So it doesn't send any JavaScript out of the box, you know. So if I refresh this, there's no JavaScript coming along. But if I go back to the application, not this one, the one I'm working on, and I move the counter to islands and I change this to islands, then this is going to tell me it needs a prop, I believe. I mean a count thing. How do I do this? Count equals 0. Man, how do I write React? Oh, start. So how am I supposed to know? So this is count, and the counter is asking for, oh, okay, so props.start and this interface, obviously. Okay, cool. So we'll start at 0. Now, if we go back to the application and we refresh this, you'll see that it sends some JavaScript, an island counter, and now we'll be able to update this. And again, just for completeness sake, if we move this back to components and we change this to components and we look at this again, when I click, nothing happens because this is like static HTML and stuff just being sent to the browser. So in that way, you can sort of pick out little areas of your app that you want reactivity and you want updates to be happening when things are clicked, and in other areas where you don't need it, then you don't have to add it there. So the benefit of that is like smaller bundles coming in, and also yeah, so you're not updating everything on the page with like state and everything. You're just updating the necessary parts. And now you're going to ask probably, a thing that was weird to me in the beginning is, so what if you have like a form and you want to post something? So usually what you'll do is you'll create a state variable called name, email, password, whatever, and then the input would model those inputs, I mean those state values, and then when you click send, you send that with asynchronous JavaScript, show a loader, show success or fail. But with Deno, I mean with Fresh, it's kind of much more old school. So you'll have a form over here, and the action would be, so let's look at the docs because I'm pretty sure they have this. Form submissions, yeah. So instead of writing it, I'm just going to show you. So you create a handler in the same page that you do the the page in. And then you just have a form with a submit button, and it will automatically trigger this handler over here, which is a lot like back in, well, I'm not going to say back in those days, but when you use Express with EJS or in the PHP world and everything, that's just how it works. The form posts to a route and the route responds with things, and you don't have variables that you maintain for this thing to model and for it to do a JavaScript send. And this way you can also take advantage of the form's built-in behavior. So that's one strange but probably also cool thing. Fetching data, so you have a handler. Every page can have a handler, and you create the methods as so if you want to post to it, you'll create a post property, but this one's getting. So at this point, when the page loads, so at the get, the username is that, response is you can fetch something from API and and render the context. So I'm not going to get into all that right now because I barely understand it, so I'm just going to probably lead you. The point of this video is to build the same application in Nuxt as it is to basically do in Deno. So let's put this back in the islands and we can delete the component. So now we have a counter and we have a name route. And we have an API endpoint which is called choke. So we'll do all of this in Nuxt as well, and then we'll deploy it. So in the index we'll have to go to the islands again. Oops. So let's look at the name endpoint. So this is a dynamic param. So we can do /name, which will just say hello name. And whatever you put in the world, it'll just echo back to us. And then there's the API endpoint of the name joke.ts, and it's got a handler which has a request and a context and sends a response. So if we do joke, you get a random joke. So there are 10 types of people in the world: those who understand binary and those who don't. Okay, cool. So next thing, let's deploy this, because this is basically done, and I would have to practice way more writing fresh logic than to actually show something useful. But I'm just going to deploy this with Deno Deploy, and we can look at sort of how fast that went and compare to Nuxt3 with Vercel. So let's go to Deno Deploy. I'll probably have to sign up, so let me just do this off screen. And let's do that. And I need an authentication code. Okay, so I'm basically, what I did now is on Deno Deploy, when I said sign up, it immediately took me to GitHub, and I'm basically authorizing it as a third-party thing. So immediately I get to this, and I'm going to create a new project, and I need to add my GitHub account to this. So let's first push up this code, and then we can select this repository. So I'm going to do in a Windows CMD, I'm going to do GitHub repos create Deno fresh test public Okay, so I've created the repository and now I can add it as a remote. So git remote add origin, git add github.com. What did I call this? Deno fresh test.git. Git init first. And is there anything I don't want to push up? I guess this is fine. Doesn't look like there's any sort of node modules or anything, so I'll just do git add git commit Deno, and then push that up. Okay, so when that's pushed up, I should be able to select the repository on Deno. No. Okay, so I've basically installed my account, and this is Deno Fresh Test, and the production branch would be master. Automatic mode is fine every time I push, and this is probably the file I need to run. That's fine. And if I click link, that should just link it, right? So I just started the deploy, and I guess we can count the setup time too. And it looks like it's done. Oh, there we go. There it is. I must say that was quite quick. Just to set that up and have a fully deployed thing. So let's try seeing if we make a change, how quick it will redeploy. Welcome to fresh again. Add that. So we'll do git commit, git add all the things, update, and git push. So let's go back to Deno because it's supposed to automatically deploy. And let's see if it has a deployments. Whoa, is it done already? That is crazy. that is crazy. We'll look at Vercel's process, obviously, because cool, man. No problem. You can watch it whenever you want. I'm gonna leave it up afterwards and enjoy your rest. You should have been in bed already. It's midnight. Cool. Okay, so we have a deployed Deno thing. I think what we can do next is try and copy this logic in Nuxt3 and sort of just see what's up. So what we want to do in Nuxt3 is add Tailwind, and we want to add a home route, and we want to add a counter component, which is just this sort of 2 buttons up and down, and yeah, it basically increments a number on the left side. So, and yeah, we'll use Tailwind as well, just to keep it a little bit more closer to each other. This might take a little while. So let's put that to the side, get back here. And this is the wrong terminal. So we'll go back, we'll go to Deno. I keep forgetting. What did I call this? Oh, fresh probably. Yeah, okay, cd Nuxt versus fresh. And then we'll go into Nuxt and then do npx nuxi init in this folder, please. That's fine. Okay, so the big difference already is in Deno when we, in Fresh, when we started the project, the dependency thing works a little bit different. It works with URLs from Deno land, and this works obviously with package.json. So I didn't see any timings on the install in the beginning of the video. Maybe I missed them, but I think the install times in a Fresh project should be a little bit faster, in my opinion. But let's do yarn install. And yeah, so yarn install can take its time sometimes. So let's just create the app layout. I'm going to delete the app.view, and I'm going to create pages. And in pages there's an index, because that should match the Deno version, index.view. And we'll do a components folder and a counter, so components/counter, I'm gonna call it app counter.view. And what else? So we need API routes that does jokes, and we also need a dynamic route. So let's create a dynamic route with name, which I believe is the same. So I think it's like name.view. Not 100% sure if that's changed, but I think that might be it. And we have an API route as well, and the way we do that in Nuxt would be server. Yeah, server. And then in here we can create API/joke.get.ts. That's fine. So we have an API route, we have the dynamic route, we have the counter, and we have, yeah, so we basically have everything. So let's just create this joke thing and test it out. So we have to export default. Let me close this down. I'm going to close this down. So in Nuxt, the way we do this is we have to say export default define event handler. And this one, the stuff will go in there. So we have an event, and all of this would go in there. And basically we can just return the text, right? And for this to work, I'll need to activate Volar. I should probably start making this the default in my new workspaces, but I work on Nuxt3 way too much to be doing this. Disable workspace. You can reload for me. Okay, so now it understands define event handler. And basically this is supposed to do the, well, it should have. But Deno is obviously still active, so let's disable in this workspace. And then in Nuxt, to get types and stuff, we can do npx nuxi prepare. Types generated. And there we go. So finally we get the thing. So if I do yarn dev right now, I should be able to call this jokes API. I'm not sure if it's going to complain because of empty pages, but let's see. That seems like it finished. And let's do /API/joke. Great. So we got that. And maybe you guys can tell me, do you think I should add Tailwind, or should I just not add Tailwind? Because obviously there's going to be like a static asset bloat if we start testing like lighthouse scores and stuff. So yeah, let me know, do you think I should add Tailwind or not? For now, I'll just create the components and stuff without it, but if I get like a yes or no in the chat, that would be the final straw. Okay, so let's do pages index, and basically I'm gonna try and copy what's been done in this one. So it's just a div with an image, and we should probably get that logo. Let's move that over to this one. We need a public folder. And then we can put the logo.svg in there. Okay, so what this should be then is I'm going to copy all of this. And yeah, that should be fine. So let's do a Nuxt component and put that in there. And I'm going to delete this bottom script and have like remove all these. So I think I can just do this. So we can keep the classes as is when we add Tailwind. If we add Tailwind. And then counter, we'll do the same interface as well. We'll just say start equals 0. All right. So for some reason, this is not formatting. There we go. Okay, so this is exactly the same. So if I compare this syntax with the syntax of, and we need this. If I compare this syntax with the syntax of Fresh, to me, I enjoy writing like Nuxt components and stuff a little bit more than JSX type stuff. This just feels very strange. But that might just be because I'm used to it. Okay, so let's just add the component as well. So we've got app counter, and basically in the Deno version, we've got an island called counter, and what we want. Okay, so why is this button up here? Oh, it's using the classes. Okay, reusable classes. So we'll just take the markup, and we have to also track that count set count thing, and we'll put the markup in there and then fix all of this and this. And then for this, we can just do, we'll repeat ourselves a little bit on this one, because I'm just going to paste that on click will become at click, and then we can remove this, wrap that in there, save that. Something is wrong. Oh, obviously this. So we'll remove this disable check because we won't do that. Okay, let's define set count, const set count equals count, which is a number. At least that is defined, and then const count equals, and see, we don't really even need set count as a function, but let's try and keep it as close as possible. And this is initialized to 0. So count.value. So let's just call this C, and then count.value equals C, right? And yeah, that should work, because this is passing in the C. Okay, so this component is basically a complete sort of replica of the component in or the island in the fresh one, but also what I think we need to make this props instead. So let's do so that it's like an exact copy. So we can do a props, so const props equals define props, and we have to give it a type, and this type would be count number, and we have to call this as a function. So we can delete this count, and then over here we can say props.count.value. It's read only, obviously, so we need to emit this back out. Do I really care about this at the moment? Okay, so let's just do local count. So const local count equals computed, and what this is going to do is just going to return count. This is a bit silly, but let's do it anyway. Const local count equals a new state of local count, and what this is going to do is it's going to start with props.count initially. So now I can do local count.value. Cool, C, and then the same thing over here. This is basically all just so that I can pass in an initial value in the page. So if we go to pages, you'll see that this is complaining at me, and this is asking for a start and not a, so I could have probably just left this as count. And then props.start. So everyone's happy now. Okay, so this is happy with a 0, and we've got the counter, and we've got not the name route. But I guess this is easy enough to add, so let's just do it, because we want to replicate this as close as possible. So this will be the route params, and we do that by getting const route equals use route, and then we can just say route.params.name, and this should be an exact replica of the original app. I hope. It's still running. Let's go home. Here we go. So definitely not count like that, but in view we use double curls, double braces. All right, so we've got a counter. So the next step would be to add a add Tailwind, and I'm not sure if we should do that, but let's do it. Let's keep it as close as possible. So Nuxt3 Tailwind. This keeps changing. I want Nuxt3. This looks like Nuxt2. Probably this one. Yes, yes. We have to install these dependencies. And I'm using yarn, so while that's going, let's keep checking it out. We have to init Tailwind CSS. Oh, that was pretty quick. Okay, it creates a config for me. Tailwind.config.js. And I know there's an issue over here where if you try to import Nuxt over there, it gives you a little bit of a complaint. And purge has changed to content, I believe. Okay. Then we create an asset css tailwind.css. No. So assets/css tailwind css. You can paste that in there. And then define Nuxt config. Bring the assets, you add this stuff to post CSS. And we don't care about the rest. So let's see if we rebuild this, what happens. Things will break. Because we do have CSS classes. Okay, change dark mode to media. I'm quite... I'll just remove it completely, yeah. That's my choice. I don't like error messages in my console, so sorry for being a little bit anal about that. Okay, so that much. Refresh this. I don't think I've added the styles to the buttons from this one in the counter. Yeah, I don't think I added these styles to the buttons. Yeah. Okay, it's not exactly the same, but it's basically using Tailwind in 99.9% of the same way, and it's got exactly the same number of pages doing the same. So let's try and go to name route. We got hello name, and we got a dangling semicolon over there. Cool. So this is basically exactly the same app as the fresh one that we've already deployed. So let's finally get to deploying this. And I'm just going to do that with Vercel. The easiest way, I think, is to just do this. Just trust that Nuxt knows exactly what we need. So let's just do Vercel. I'm not even going to configure anything because that's how it worked with... yeah, I'll go GitHub. So, because that's how it worked with Deno Deploy. Like, I literally just set it up with GitHub, the same thing I'm doing now. Yes, I want to do this. I'll be me. No. Nuxt versus fresh. The code, I am not sure. Yeah, base directory. I don't know. What are you looking for? So it's uploading. Let's see if I can go to that. Auto detected. Want to override the settings? No, just do what you have to. Okay, so it looks like the project is available. No deploys yet, but it's building. 13 seconds, 16 seconds. And this is the thing. The Deno Deploy was just crazy much like faster. Sorry, right now can't watch video, but hope will be record. Hi from Minsk. Hey man, no problem. I basically don't really expect a lot of people to be in the live stream. So yeah, I'm doing this. If you are here, feel free to drop a chat, but if you're not, don't worry, I'm leaving it up on the channel. So this took about, so it's ready. It took about 37 seconds, where Deno was like, man, I want to say like 3 seconds or 2 seconds, just immediately up there. And a refresh was like immediate as well. So every time I deploy on Vercel, it's going to be like 37 seconds. So in deploy time, Deno definitely sort of takes the cake. I mean, fresh Deno / whatever, you know. This does that. Okay, so let's put them like right next to each other. I have 10,000 things on my screen right now. So this is the one. Okay, so let's put them right next to each other and do like a little test and see. So the only difference here really is that these buttons aren't like spread out, but other than that, at 150 and 150, it's pretty much the same. So I think let's look at the console. And this is probably the most interesting part of the stream. Hey, @main, I don't know how to say your name. And question related to content Nuxt. Yeah, shoot, I haven't used it in a while, but do you have an idea on how to deploy it to Netlify? Yeah, so Nuxt content does have a, you can generate and then just deploy it to Netlify with your static assets. I'll maybe take a second to look at that just now. I just really got to like the thing I've been waiting for in this part of the stream. So I'll get to that in a moment. But I do have a Nuxt content video that I use to deploy to Firebase, and it would be probably exactly the same. So I'll take you through that code in a little bit. But I want to see some stats over here. So let's go to network, and then we'll look at all, disable the cache, and this is Deno. So let's do the Nuxt one first. So this is all network, disable cache. Let's zoom in a little bit and then do a hard refresh. Okay, so we get 129 kilobytes transferred. The basic full load time was 777. That's DOM content and the download. Cool. Yeah, welcome. I'm really the most inconsistent poster or uploader there is, so maybe if I start getting a little bit more like interaction with you guys, like I have been seeing lately, then I should be posting a little bit more recent. Okay, I mean a little bit more frequent, not recent. Okay, so we're looking at basically 777 milliseconds and 129 kilobytes with 8 requests. So let's compare that to fresh. Okay, so it doesn't really look that good to me. Perhaps that was like a cold start or something. Let's just do that again. Alright, so I'm consistently getting like 900 milliseconds. Thing is, these are in 2 different locations, somewhere on the edge, and I'm in Namibia, Africa, so depends on how fast it's probably getting here. But so pretty much comparable for the base loaded site. Nuxt does a really great job at deleting things out of the build that it doesn't need. As you can see, like 129 kilobytes and 76. So the build size is a little bit bigger. It's twice as big, but almost twice as big. But I mean, it's still not even 150 kilobytes. And probably this logo. Let's see what's the biggest in Nuxt. So the entry is the biggest, obviously, which is probably all the Nuxt stuff. And that's only 117 kilobytes. So, in my opinion, nah. To me, if I could do a Deno deploy with Nuxt, or if I can do like a Nuxt Deno deploy and use that incredibly fast like deploy environment, I would be really happy. So let's try name. This is obviously a route with nothing on it, and I think this is where Deno might shine, because if you look at this, it's a route that has absolutely no sort of interactivity on it. It has no buttons. There's no state necessary for this, but Nuxt still needs to download the 117 kilobytes for Nuxt, because it has a client-side router and all those kinds of things. But if we go to the fresh one and we run that, we just get a document of 2.6 kilobytes. And I think that is the place where Deno will sort of, or fresh, Deno fresh. So if I say Deno in this video, please just take it as fresh. So I think that's where fresh is gonna show a lot of its sort of performance weight, is on pages like this, really high static content pages that just have like small little areas of functionality. Like if you have a social media page and there's like 200 posts on it, and the only part of that post that is perhaps interactive is the little heart button. That's a like button. So in fresh, you'll probably just create an island, heart button island, and then include that in the static side, and you'll only need to bring in that little bit of interactivity, where with Nuxt, even on this page that has nothing on it, you need to bring in the entire front end stuff for the sort of for the front end router and those things to be available to you. And if we look at the code with Nuxt, the pages, this is generated on the server, because if we inspect this, let's go back to here. If we inspect this with source, you'll see that we have the physical actual things it's been generated on the server. So it's not like it's hydrating on the client side. But these components and things probably, even if Fresh is doing a pretty good job at minimizing, so it's only like 50 kilobytes over here, but with Nuxt you still get that full 129. The load times is a little bit dodgy for me, because I don't know where these things are deployed. I can probably look up the IP or something, but they're probably deployed in two very different locations, and I'm sitting in Namibia, so can't really trust that the load time. But so the DOM content loaded 630 and DOM content loaded 406. So very interesting. I'm gonna do a full Lighthouse score and then end the video there. So let's do Lighthouse. I'll do snapshot, I believe. And device would be desktop, all of those things, and run. So after this test, I'm going to sign off, and hopefully something was a little bit entertaining. Performance 3 out of 4. Accessibility 5. A document doesn't have a okay, I mean, best practices looks good. ACO. So the issues are more so based with ACO and stuff like that. But performance, since when does it look like this? There used to be like a a nicer interface for this. Is that because I chose the wrong thing? So it's just telling me 3 out of 4 for performance. And I'm not sure what that means in terms of, and that's just because image elements don't have things. So let's try and do the default one. Let's go mobile and do everything. No, we don't have a progressive web app. So I think I was supposed to do this, yeah. So this is the Nuxt version. And basically, if you've missed it, okay, so 99%. And accessibility and SEO, I don't really care about that for now. So, okay, we have these details, and I think that's, so you can see already, please reduce unused JavaScript. And I bet you that's going to be even worse on the second page, and we'll do those pages as well. So let's go to Lighthouse, navigation, we'll do mobile, and then do this. So yeah, so we get 100 performance, 1 second versus 1.6, 1.6, 1.1, 1.7 for speed index, 1.6, not bad. Total blocking time is, to me, looks actually a little, I mean, it's 20 milliseconds, so nobody's going to really know that, but it is worse. And then largest contentful paint is 1.6 for Nuxt and 1 for Fresh. So it looks like Fresh is doing a little better, and this is a very small app, so I don't know if this is fair. But let's do a test on the most basic page. So you would expect that if you create a page like this, which has a little bit of Tailwind and just two little words, it's supposed to go quick, you know? And sorry if Ismail, are you still around? If you are, I can jump to your question right after this. But let's run the Lighthouse score one more time on a page that has basically nothing on it. And this is where I think the Fresh framework should stand out, you know, because I mean, sorry, not allowed to do that. Okay, so Nuxt gives me an 89 performance. Speed index is really bad. It took all that time to get to this last screen and just render me two things on the screen. So that's a little bit disappointing, but you kind of expect that because Nuxt is made to build applications. If you're gonna do something like hello name and you're generating a Nuxt project to do that, I think the load should be more on you than expecting, you know, why didn't you just do an HTML document with hello name? So kind of a little rant over there, because I'll always back my Nuxt because I really like Nuxt. Okay, so we'll do the same thing for Fresh, and then I'll look at the content thing, and then I really need to go. So obviously Fresh brings in crazy scores, a lot the same than the actual full page render, with the little component and thing. So yeah, I mean, I'm impressed with both. The cool thing with Fresh is the speed of deploying and the speed of redeploying with Git. It's like instant. I like the island architecture where you can make little areas functional. I dislike the syntax of writing JSX and stuff. I dislike I guess this is because I'm still a noob, but I don't like the learning curve of Deno and, you know, how it differs from Node and everything, but we will have to eventually get over that and just learn it anyway. Yeah, and also obviously package support, doing very complicated and sort of enterprise stuff would be difficult with Fresh. All of that in Nuxt. Great developer experience, great easy way to set up things and understand structure and maintain your code. Fresh is it's very lenient in the way that you can write code. So if we look at, you basically just write TypeScript functions and stuff. So if you don't maintain a good structure in your code, then things will get messy. So Nuxt sort of keeps you in a little bit of a line with that, which I really don't mind. It's pretty cool. And now that Nuxt3 has such good TypeScript support, I don't really see me abandoning it for something like Fresh, but I do see myself playing around with Fresh much more in these kinds of things. So that's my 2 cents. And now let's have a quick look at Ishmael's question on the Nuxt content. So I have a repository. Let me just find it. I don't think I'll be able to write too much code anymore because my wife is busy getting to. So I think this was called a blog thing. Nuxt content tutorial. Cool. I actually did something like this. So this one uses Firebase to run workflows and stuff and automatic deploy. So if you want to just copy the code over there and maybe, you know, use it for yourself. The main thing is that you use workflows to build your code, because you have to use Nuxt generate to first generate all your static pages. And in the workflows, I think I have some actions over here. Deploy to Firebase hosting. You can see build and deploy. So yeah, I run the Nuxt generate command and then deploy that to Firebase. And you'll probably do the same thing with Netlify. Yeah. I guess you could also just do it locally on your PC. So you run Nuxt generate on your computer, and then it will save obviously your new posts and stuff in a folder. And then if you push to GitHub or any Git place and it's linked to Netlify, then it'll just pull the generated code. The only downside to that is every time you write a new blog post or you write a new thing, you have to generate your code and then push it. But that's what static site generation basically is. If you want to make it more dynamic, yeah, maybe I can do a video on that. But I would say the easiest way to go about it is just to sort of write your new content in your markdown files or whatever to Nuxt generate, let it generate the HTML stuff for you, and then git push to the Netlify repository and let it build, or just let it deploy the static assets by setting your static folder. I hope that helped. And hey, Vedant, just a little bit late. I basically finished the stream now. Have to go eat. It's good to see you. And I hope, Ishmael, that helped you a little bit. If I had more time, I would have started an example right now, but I really have to go. So next time, I'll start with that if you're around. So yeah, and thanks guys for watching and playing around with these concepts with me. And then yeah, I hope I'll see you guys again next time, and have a great evening. And if you're not subscribed, why not subscribe? If you don't want to, that's fine. Just give it a like at least. Cool.